Hi and welcome back to Seekers and Cynics. My name is Richard Bentley and we're here at Bobbin Road Church, and we've been looking over recent weeks at the whole question of God and science, and whether it's possible to take science seriously and also to have a faith. And probably the biggest issue in that whole arena is the issue of origins. And last time we thought about the origin of everything and looked at Big Bang Theory. And today I want to think about the origin of life and all the species that we have on our planet today. So we're looking at the whole question of evolution. I'm going to leave human beings to one side till next time. We are rather special and rather different and need some extra attention, and the question of the Adam and Eve story and how that might fit. We'll look at all that next time. So today we're just thinking about life in general, evolution in general. So I want to start by asking, what is the Christian view of all this stuff? You may be asking, if you're looking in at Christianity from the outside, what do Christians believe? Well, the answer is that there isn't a Christian view. There isn't one single Christian viewpoint on the question of life and evolution. Christians, yes, all Christians believe that ultimately God is the creator of everything in the ultimate sense, in the broader sense. But Christians will differ in their view as to exactly how God went about doing that creating. And so there's a whole spectrum of views, and I want you to know that if you're thinking of becoming a Christian, nobody's asking you to sign up to any one particular view on creation. Becoming a Christian, being a Christian, is about following, trusting and loving Jesus Christ. It's not about signing up to a particular view of history or a particular interpretation of the book of Genesis. But it does help to have a think about some of that stuff. So let's do that. In a sense, Christian views fall along a spectrum. There's a spectrum of views, and at one end of that spectrum there is what we would call creationism. Creationism is, and always has been, a rather American phenomena, but it's here in the UK too, and it's a very literal take on that opening chapter of Genesis. And creationists believe literally that God made the world in a literal 6-day period, probably only a few thousand years ago. That's what I mean, that view, when I use the word creationism or creationist. The other end of the spectrum, there's a view that's often called theistic evolution. And theistic meaning theos, from God, so evolution, but with sort of God behind it. And that view says, look, okay, the evidence for evolution may be very good, but even if DNA has this amazing ability to enable creatures to evolve through mutation and through natural selection, even if that's the case, somebody in a sense had to invent that process, had to create that capability of DNA to carry information, that capacity of DNA to work in that manner. So there still must be a creator, a designer behind that whole process, and we call that somebody God. So that's sort of the other end of the Christian spectrum, and there's a range of views in between which I won't go into, but those are the sort of two ends of the spectrum. If you ask me, Richard, where are you? What do you think? I'm going to say this. Here's roughly where I'm at. I think the evidence, the scientific evidence for evolution, is really rather compelling. And the fossil evidence, the distribution of species in the world today, and in particular the evidence, the more recent evidence from microbiology, really is extremely compelling. And so I do believe in the process of evolution, and I would not call myself a creationist, although I once would have. In my late teens and early 20s, that was the view that I held. But having said that, I'm also quite clear that none of that does away with my faith in God or does away with the need for a creator, an intelligent initiator and designer of the whole process. So if we ask creation or evolution, I don't think we have to choose. Those two words are answers to two different categories of question. So if we ask how, what was the process, we can give the answer evolution. But if we ask who, why, just as we saw with looking at Big Bang last time, there needs to be a creator. So I don't think those two words need to be placed at odds with each other at all. So for me, when I say I believe in evolution, that takes absolutely nothing away from my awe and wonder and worship of a creator God who is above and over the whole process, without whom there would be zilch, there would be nothing at all. Where does that leave the 6 days of creation in the book of Genesis? Very simply this. That opening chapter of Genesis is not a scientific narrative history that is intended to be read literally. Those opening verses of Genesis are carefully constructed in Hebrew poetry, full of word play and other poetical devices. And that poetry need not, indeed that poetry should not, be read as a literal chronological narrative. That would be to abuse the text. Augustine didn't read it that way, and that was long before Darwin was applying any pressure to anybody. The poetry of Genesis chapter 1 gives us this beautiful picture of a designer, creator, bringing into being a structured and ordered and beautiful universe. And it was actually written as a polemical piece of propaganda to counter the polytheistic crazy myths of the Babylonian culture into which Genesis 1 was first published. It was not written to be read as a scientific or narrative history. Now, I know there are creationists who will not be happy with what I've just said because they want to believe in a God who involves himself specifically in the special creation of every species. And I know there'll also be plenty of atheists who don't like what I've said because they don't want any God talk in the picture at all. But you know, both of those positions, the atheist position and the creationist position, are ideologically driven. And I don't trust ideologues to arrive at truth. Truth is found via humility, prayer, thought, some more prayer, some more thought, reading, data, some more data, talking to people, some more humility, thinking carefully. That's how we arrive at truth. And truth is so very often not at any ideological extreme, but somewhere in the middle. The bottom line is this: if you are seeking a Christian faith, you certainly do not have to sign up to creationism in order to be a Christian. But you do have to believe in a creator, in the God who is ultimately the creator and father of everything. Let me leave you with a quote from Francis Collins. I posted his little video a couple of weeks back on the Seekers and Cynics channel. He led the Human Genome Project, top biological scientist and a Christian, and he says this: will we turn our backs on science because it's perceived as a threat to God? Alternatively, will we turn our backs on faith, concluding that science has rendered the spiritual life no longer necessary? Both of these choices are profoundly dangerous. Both deny truth. And both are unnecessary. The God of the Bible is also the God of the genome. He can be worshipped in the cathedral or in the laboratory. His creation is majestic, awesome, intricate, and beautiful. See you next time.